Can I ask you what is the principal objection to the deal which the Conservatives began negotiating over, which Keir Starmer has concluded?
First of all, the Conservatives in the last government put an end to any discussions and negotiations because what Labour are relying on is basically an arbitrary, non-binding legal opinion. And it's really important to emphasise that basically Keir Starmer and Calamity Lammy are clearly desperately worried that their lefty lawyer friends are going to keep on challenging the government had they not have just sort of signed this over. And they have basically felt compelled to sign up to this and effectively surrender the Chagos Islands.
Right.
Instead of actually standing tall for Britain and standing tall for the Chagossians. And I'm sure you've seen and heard from some of the Chagossian community today who feel widely let down because their
Yes.
voices have not been heard. And there's an important point here, Tom, which is their own rights in terms of discrimination have been completely ignored as well.
Did James Cleverly, who originally wrote a written ministerial statement in 2022 to say that they're going to begin negotiations with over the Chagos Islands with Mauritius, was he also scared of lefty lawyers? Because the Tories have been looking to agree a deal here.
Well, let me just say this right now. I wasn't in government at the time, as you know very well. What I can tell you is that it was David Cameron who shut all this down, and I think that's important to note. I suspect what happened at the time with the former Foreign Secretary back in 2022. You know, I've been there. Civil servants will come with their advice notes and basically say, Foreign Secretary, we could be sued if you don't even look at this for now. And, you know, being a diligent and conscientious Foreign Secretary, I'm sure James at least looked at the detail. But what he did not do was sign and agree to the surrender of the Chagos Islands.
But so he looked at it and started negotiations out by accident, or because he was under pressure from civil servants?
It would have been on official advice. I've got no doubt about that. But look, I wasn't there in government, so I can't even speculate around how that was handled. The reality right now is that the Labour government are relying on a non-binding legal opinion where they are effectively giving over a base, giving up the sovereignty, and British taxpayers are going to have to pay for that privilege.
They've agreed, I think, a lease on the base for 99 years plus. At what cost, you're right, don't yet know. But that guarantees the security of that base, does it not?
We don't know that, Tom. We haven't seen any detail. And let me just tell you this, I think your listeners need to know this. That is not for the want of trying. I've used every single parliamentary weaves of opposition days, questions, etc., etc. In fact, I've got a letter in front of me that I wrote to Calamity Lammy, David Lammy, back on the 28th of March. And he's still, with over 40 questions in there, and he still hasn't had the decency to respond to them. And I think there is a serious point here, which is the lack of accountability and the lack of transparency within the FCDO, where they have not been responding to questions fully. They don't want debates on the floor of the House. They're not having the scrutiny. They're avoiding scrutiny. And by the way, this afternoon at 5 o'clock, when there's a statement in Parliament, it is the Defence Secretary, John Healey, that will be taking it. It won't be the Foreign Secretary, and I just don't think that's good enough. These people are cowards, and they're hiding behind a decision that they've made already, and made some time ago.
Talking of the Foreign Secretary, you were opposite him in the House when he made his statement about Israel.
Yes.
Does the Conservative Party agree about the suspension of a trade deal with Israel?
Actually, we don't. We do not, because it is the bilateral roadmap. That is the correct term for it. And I tell you for why. Because Britain actually benefits from aspects of that roadmap. And guess what? We benefit from the security aspect of that roadmap. And when you think about the influence of Iran in the region and the malign influence, and the fact that we've had these terrorist arrests in our own country where Iranian proxies have been operating in Britain, it's important that we have those open avenues and dialogues. And if I may say so, Tom, my real concern about what is happening in Gaza is the fact of the matter is, and again, I've asked the questions of David Lammy and he's not given any answers, is that we are not getting aid in, and the British government, i.e. David Lammy, has failed to even discuss alternative mechanisms of getting aid into people in Gaza at a time when there's such appalling suffering.
But in what way should the British government be able to show its huge displeasure and upset about the fact that the aid isn't getting in to the Netanyahu government in Israel?
Well, they did actually call and summon the Israeli ambassador in, I think, 2 or 3 days ago.
Is that enough?
So, well, that's one way of doing it. But I have to be very honest, Tom. I mean, I've been in the chamber several times now because I've put forward urgent questions and I've called the ministers to the House on this issue for a few weeks now, several weeks, in fact. This, I'm going to say it, and this will be difficult for people to fully comprehend. You know, the reality is Labour MPs are not happy with their front bench, the FCDO team. They feel that they should be going further. We've all been asking for weeks and weeks about what actions the government is taking to get aid in, and all we are hearing is words. We have all been calling for actions collectively, and that is simply not materialising.
Good to speak to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.